Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to No BS Hiring Advice Radio. We're doing this as a show on Blog Talk Radio. I'm broadcasting on Periscope, and I'm also recording this as a hangout on Google that will appear as a YouTube video later on. This is a time where I spend about 15 minutes speaking with you about some element of job search because I believe job hunting doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be difficult or painful or take so long. It's just the skills needed to find a job are different than the skills needed to do the job. And in hiring, there's a similar scenario. Firms engage in practices that frankly interfere with their ability to get the people they say they want to hire. So that's where this show comes in. That's where some of the articles I write for LinkedIn and for No BS Hiring Advice come in. They're all designed to help you find staff more quickly, to do it painfully. And frankly, I also want to say, I want to create a great impression with you so you feel like you want to hire me to help engage in some of the searches. So this show is brought to you by two sponsors. The first one is Audible. And if you go to audibletrial.com/The Big Game Hunter and sign up for a free trial, what you're going to be able to do is get a free audiobook as part of that trial. Second sponsor, oh, by the way, I know you like audio. You listen to this podcast, maybe some of my other ones like Job Search Radio or No BS Job Search Advice Radio. Yeah. You like audio, that's why you do this. So again, audibletrial.com/The Big Game Hunter. My other sponsor is consultingassignments.com, which is a site where you can find and fill consulting assignments, full-time consulting positions, temp to perm and contract to hire opportunities anywhere in the world, completely free. Posting a job or resume is free. Searching jobs and resumes is free. The only thing the site charges for is if you're going to feature a job or a resume. It is $10 for 30 days. So again, consultingassignments.com. So I call this show about hiring myths. And I believe firms engage in a variety of different myths that I want to help debunk. Because frankly, this is part of the mythology that I think people engage in, that interferes with firms hiring sufficiently in order to fill the requirements and get things done. Thus, you wind up wasting a lot of time on stupid interviews that are completely unnecessary. So let me start with myth number one, which is conducting a postmortem of the bad hire. So many firms, so many managers fixate on their failures. They fixate on the mistakes that were made along the way and fail to spend any time looking at the successes that they've had when hiring. Thus, the scale kind of gets weighted heavily in one direction or another, and the message is sent out pretty clearly: don't screw up, as opposed to hire superior people. It's very subtle because no one ever says, this person was great, you should hire more like them. Instead, they say that person was a screw up. They were just another piece of dead wood in our organization. Don't hire dead wood. And that's where the emphasis winds up being. Instead, I want you to think about the successes that you've had. What made this hire a success? What made this person a superior talent for your organization? What caused them to stand out positively from the pack? And by the way, while they're on board, I want you to feed that, because so often hiring managers make the mistake of trying to rectify the mistake and give no attention to the superior person. If the failure, if the slug, if the mediocre individual can't step up the grade, ignore them. They're going to wind up leaving of their own volition. But if you give them attention, all that's going to happen is you're going to lose your good people. Instead, feed them. Give them some positive energy. Give them attaboys and attagirls. Help them achieve even more. So that's myth number one, is the myth of fixating on the mistake rather than on the success. Myth number two, this one drives me crazy, is part of the reference process when firms ask for a personal reference. Like, what do you expect this person to really say? Seriously, what do you expect them to say? My neighbor is a jerk. I'm only doing this because I want to hurt her so badly because of that time 2 years ago where she just had her dog crap all over my yard and didn't clean. What do you expect them to say? Seriously. So, it's not like they're going to say this person's a thief. You're not going to get a message that says anything other than they have a superior character. So even if you ask them, are they reliable? Do you really expect them to say no? If you ask them how long you've known them, well, maybe this new best friend hasn't known this person for very long, and maybe this old best friend moved not long after they really got close, but they really had an intense, great relationship. And the result is, the message that's always taught about getting the personal references. You want someone reliable. You want to know how long they've known the person to know, is this a person who can build a relationship with someone? Like this really matters to your firm. Is this, there's nonsense that the firms are coached about. I think one of the better questions to ask is if it's a professional context, and this person's been alerted to the phone call. You might just simply ask them, so why do you think they're interested in this role? Have they spoken with you about it? And if they say, no, they haven't spoken with me about it, basically you're left with a character reference. If they do answer the question, there you might get something interesting, because often the filter is not quite as strong as in the direct relationship. But overall, personal references are a waste of time. And if you check the professional reference about reliability and ask someone to rate it on a 1 to 10 scale, with 1 being completely unreliable and an idiot, 10 being extraordinary, if someone gave you less than an 8, there's a message in that. If they gave you an 8, you might just pause and say, so what caused you to give this person an 8 versus a 9 or a 10? It's not the number, it's the rating scale that this person uses that's interesting. So most of the time you get people who are, quote, tough graders critiquing someone. And, if you don't ask the follow-up question, you're not going to really find that out. You're just listening to someone who's mouthing off in some way. It's why I really don't like personal references. Next, one of the messages that you get is trust your gut. Wrong. And I'm going to tell you about trust your gut, in just, if I may, by saying that your gut often is influenced by your biases. And there's no objectivity in your gut. See, to me, first of all, you're trying to evaluate people for skills. So that's objective knowledge. Do they have the objective knowledge that's necessary in order to do this job? That's the real question you have to ask yourself. So that's number one. Do they have the experience? Do they have the objective knowledge to do this job? And then from there, when you start getting into things like gut or fit, often bias rears its ugly head because it's the way people discriminate against people of a different type that they don't really know. Stick with the knowledge base. And I also say, stay off the fit thing, because here's where it really breaks down for me. When I listen to people talk about fit, I think back to American presidents who surrounded themselves with yes men and now yes women, and no one gives different opinions. Everyone's on the same page with one another. And what you really want are to hire some rebels for your group. You want to hire people who do fit differently rather than people who fit a conventional response. So don't go by your gut, go by knowledge, go by personality. I love to hire people I've done this for many years. I've hired people that are completely different than the personality of the group, and they have been extraordinary. Now, it does cause some disruption in the group at times, but as long as you basically feed that pig by saying, I want diversity of viewpoints. I want people who think differently. I'm not always going to agree with you. I'm not always going to agree with them, but I need to hear the other side. That kind of quells the rebellion. So when all is said and done, make sure you get diverse viewpoints and don't trust your gut. I think there's a way to introduce the new hire to the team. Now, I worked in agencies where people were basically thrown into the room and told to basically sink or swim. And most of the time, they sunk. There was a stupidity to doing the formal and informal stuff. I'd rather get the formal hire done or the formal introductions done before the first day. That's what I always used to do. And I just find it very effective. The idea of everyone going out for drinks that first day, nonsense. The idea of everyone going out for coffee, nonsense. Instead, create a venue before they start where everyone can meet, and then they can walk in having had some relationship previously that'll help them adjust. I think those are the basics of what I want to cover today. Are there other myths that you know of, other mistakes firms engage in? I just remembered one. It's the idea of the constant critique of performance. Firms often engage in reviews. That's a good thing, but it's only a good thing because you're never catching people doing something right and reinforcing it. You're often only catching people doing something wrong and disrupting their workday. To me, you always have to do both. And when you're hiring people and putting them through that 3-month probation period where the new hire is adjusting to your organization, you need to be able to give them positive feedback about the things that they're doing well. It can be 5-10 minutes on the fly. It can even be at their desk, even in a shared environment, and just recognize that the positive message that they'll get will influence the others that are around them. So make sure that the things that you state about positive performance are heard by others, because that's going to encourage them to behave in that way. And don't just give gratuitous, nonsensical feedback. If you have something critical, do it behind closed doors. There's nothing more embarrassing to someone than to be critiqued negatively in front of a room of people and then expect them to turn around and say, you're absolutely right. They never do. So those are a few of the myths in hiring that I've discerned over the course of 40 plus years in recruiting. Like I always say, what have you found? Send me an email at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. Let me know about some of the myths that you found. Now, I also want to mention that as I wrap up here that I'd love to help your firm with staffing. If you're interested in that, call me at 646-374-8656 or email me at jeffaltman@thebiggamehunter.us. Let me know when to contact you or point me to the right person. Let me know who to contact and whether to mention your name. I'd love to help your firm staff positions. If we're not already connected on LinkedIn, send me a connection request at linkedin.com/IN/the-big-game-hunter. I accept connection requests from people worldwide, except if you're a third-party recruiter in a country known for scams or spam or look like a spammer or scammer. Finally, there's a lot more information on my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. I'm moving it to the blog area, so if you don't see something in one of the tabbed areas, check the blog. You'll find information that's going to help you be more effective with your staffing, with your recruiting, and with your hiring. So I'm Jeff Altman. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I'm going to be back next time with more no BS hiring advice. Have a great day.